on the scorecard. Racism is not dead in America. And when you can get beat by police officers with your hands behind your head, laying on the ground, racism is not dead in America. It's clear that the system is flawed. I'm talking about the jury. You can end up with an all-white jury who obviously can't see. You can end up with a prosecution officer that cannot convict. And we can end up with a city administration that can't seem to hire police officers who respect the rights of all. Racism is not dead in America. I'm now going to ask Ms. Yolanda Smith, the Executive Director of the NAACP, to read the official statement that we have made today.
What is your name, sir? What is your name?
James Douglas.
Thanks.
First Vice President.
Good evening. The NAACP Houston branch is joined today by a host of community organizations, activists, ministers, elected officials, and state NAACP leadership to express our outrage at what we consider a blatant miscarriage of justice. Today's not guilty verdict of former HPD officer Blomberg sends a clear signal that even with overwhelming evidence, as shown on the videotape of the beating of 15-year-old Chad Holly, that fairness and equality has not been achieved, and that it is acceptable to use violent use of force while attempting to detain African American suspects. The fact that the jury was all white is and should be a concern to all minorities. With Harris County having a minority population of over 67%, this is a clear indication that Houston still has a problem, and racism is still alive and well. Our NAACP Houston branch, along with our Texas State Conference, is represented here today by Bishop James Dixon, our State Religious Affairs Chair, will be requesting our national NAACP and the Justice Department to investigate this case. I'm now going to turn it over to Bishop Dixon, who will have words, and also be followed by our individuals joined, our activists and community organizations.
Today is a sad day in Houston, Texas. It's a day for outrage. It's a day for righteous indignation to be expressed very clearly without ambiguity. The fact of the matter is, the verdict rendered today in Harris County Court 174 declares to all African Americans and others that your life is no more valuable than that of an insect. What we witnessed on the tape with Officer Blomberg stomping on 15-year-old Chad Holly was a picture of rage, a picture of disrespect, a picture that declares your life has absolutely no value. I join with the NAACP representing the State Religious Affairs Department of our NAACP, saying that yes, we're calling for an investigation by the U.S. Justice Department, but beyond that, I'm a member of the clergy. We're standing here today with other pastors who are here, and I want to thank them for being here and thank Minister Cornell for being here and others. If he'll speak in just a moment, but here's what I want to say. Justice is not black. And justice is not white. Justice has no color. And what I'm calling for is not just investigations from the U.S. Department of Justice, but I'm looking for white Christians, white religious leaders, white spiritual leaders, others, to say this is an atrocity and black people should not have to fight for justice by ourselves. Because if that's a good place to say something. I really want to say this very pointedly and yet maintain my disposition as best I possibly can. It does not make sense to have mega churches in Houston, black, white, and brown. But when an African American kid at 15 years old can be beaten by police officers, viewed clearly on the videotape thanks to Minister Cornell's efforts, because we would not even have the tape had he not gotten the tape to the media against the wishes of the police department and then the mayor. That's why we know about it. But they've seen that tape over and over and over again, and we don't see anyone out here with us except black leaders and some Hispanic leaders says that there is support for this unjust criminal justice and judicial system by those who don't show their faces. We put our money in your baskets. But when it's time for you to show up on behalf of this kind of race crime, we don't see those big names that sell the books, that have the TV programs in Houston, Texas. And so let me close by saying we're going to be asking for all leaders to say where you stand. Either you're going to stand for justice or we're going to put your name on blast to say you don't care about the citizens of this city. And finally, let me say this. This is far from over. We will be meeting beyond this press conference to discuss strategy because we cannot sit back. We all have children. I have a son. And to see what happened to Chad Holly on that tape and to understand that in this 21st century Harris County, Texas, a verdict of not guilty by an all-white jury says to us that we are worthless, have no value, and the message is clear that it's open season on a Negro.
That's right.
We're going to have to stand and stand for justice in a way that we've never stood before. I want to present at this time a warrior, a brother who's been in the fight, in the struggle, in the courtroom, on the streets, there to voice the community's sentiments for justice, and his leadership is stellar. We're grateful for this coalition. And after he comes, I'll bring one other speech. But I want us to receive the warrior, Minister Cornell X. We'll entertain questions later.
I just want to say that I have spoken with Chad's mother. I have spoken with Chad. In fact, at first Chad thought it was a joke. He didn't think it was really a not guilty verdict. He was shocked, he was hurt, and he has absolutely lost hope in the system. He placed his hope in the system in believing that the system would bring justice to him and to our community. Well, now we all blatantly see that there is no justice, it's just us. I also watched the prosecutor in this case, Prosecutor Greenwood, who prosecuted the Robbie Coley case and lost that Bel Air shooting case. He was the same prosecutor in this case, in the Chad Holly's case. He walked over to Bloomberg, shook his hand, and congratulated him at the end of the trial once the verdict had come in. How can we trust a prosecutor that walks over to the defendant that just beat him in a call for justice, shakes his hand, and congratulates him? I'm saying to our brothers and sisters, you cannot place your faith in the system downtown. You cannot place your faith in law enforcement. We must place our faith in God, one another, and what we collectively do through unity for each other and for our community. We are absolutely hurt and outraged because the jury sent a message, not to Chad Holly. The jury sent a message to black people, brown people, and minorities. They said today that the life of a black man is not worth a penny with a hole in it in Houston, Harris County. I am asking for the Department of Justice We're asking for the FBI. We're asking for Attorney General Eric Holder to step in and take over these prosecutions. We're asking the FBI do not allow the DA's office of Harris County to prosecute one more officer in this Chad Holly beating videotape. We want Eric Holder and the FBI to take over this investigation, because to allow an all-white jury to sit in this case after a whole week of jury selection, over 1,500 members of the jury pool, you can find one black person in Houston, Harris County to sit on that jury. This was nothing more than a con game to leave the appearance of justice. They never cared. So I am hurt. My heart is broken. And I'm not going to stand here and say to young people, seeing we shall overcome. I can't do that. I can't tell our young people, just pray, it's going to be all right. Because we got to do more than just pray. Yes, we got to pray, but we got to organize. We got to mobilize. So tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we're asking all of the people to go to the Harris County Criminal Courthouse at 1201 Franklin and let the people's voice be heard. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what group you belong to. If you believe that that was an injustice, show up tomorrow at 4 o'clock and let your voice be heard. Because what happened was not a slap in the face of Chad Holly. What that jury did today, they stomped on the community like Bloomberg stomped on the neck of Chad Holly.